what's up guys, Omogonix here and welcome back to a brand new Unity tutorial here on the channel. So recently I actually did a poll on my YouTube community tab to see what tutorial you guys would want next, and a majority of you guys voted for the security camera system tutorial. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a basic security camera system in Unity using C#. I was actually expecting my car tutorial to get the most votes, but you know, I was surprised to see the security camera system tutorial get the most votes. And yeah, it's going to be fun to show you guys how this all works. I've already got it all made up as well, since I thought it would just be easier for myself to do that and just make this tutorial a bit more easier as well. So if you guys do enjoy this tutorial or you do find it helpful, be sure to like, comment and subscribe for more, and let's get right into it. So first up, the first thing that I'd like to show you guys is the cameras I have set up. So here in my hierarchy, you can see that I've got a parent object called security cameras, and underneath this parent object, I have all these cameras here. Now, all these are all disabled. I'm just going to re-enable them, and there we go. So I've got 6 cameras underneath this security cameras parent object. And I haven't made much edits to the cameras. All I've done is I've applied a target texture to them, which I'll get to soon, but another thing that I've done as well is I've removed the audio listener component from all these cameras, because you know, you should only ever have one active audio listener in your scene at all times, and that's usually going to be attached to your player camera. So make sure that your player camera, of course, has an audio listener, which it will by default most likely. But yeah, so remove the audio listeners from these security cameras that you place in your scene, and yeah. And I recommend having all of them disabled except for one, so just have like one enabled, your first camera in your list of cameras here. If you don't know how to get out a camera, you just go Game Object, and then you go Camera, and then yeah, you can just place around the camera wherever you want. And yeah, just make sure you have a couple of them around, of course, since we're going to be making a security camera system. And yeah. And then again, just remove the audio listener from your camera as well. So then, yeah, it can be all goods. Alrighty, so as you guys saw before, I actually have a target texture on all these security cameras here. And what this will do is it will allow us to display our camera onto, you know, like meshes and stuff. So if we want to display what our camera sees onto other meshes, like here, for example, as you can see the camera view right here on the cube. What you want to do is in your project folder, you just want to right-click, go Create, and then create a new render texture. And then once you create a render texture, you can, you know, change the properties of it. You can set the size and dimensions. Mine's just 256 by 256, so it's a square. You guys can do what you want with your render texture though. And then once you make it up, just select all your security cameras, and then drag in your render texture to the target texture section of the camera. And then once you do that, if you've got like a security camera system thingy-majiggy already made up, I'll show you guys my thing here. So as you can see, I've just got like a few cubes which make up my little security camera system. And then, so what I've got is I've got like, you know, a table type thing, and then I've got like the screen. And this object in particular here is called the camera view, since this is how we'll be, you know, looking at the what's going on with the cameras. And then we have what's called the previous cam button and the next cam button. And by the way, I will say as well that with your buttons here, the previous cam button and the next cam button, it is important that you actually do have them named as previous cam button and next cam button, and I'll get to why soon, of course. So yeah, just make up your own little security camera system, and when you've got all that done, you can actually just like drag your render texture over to wherever you want to on your security camera system. Let's say, for example, I want to drag it onto this object here. And then basically what will happen is a material will be created. So in my case, here's my my little texture right here. Now, when you drag a render texture onto an object, it will create a material. Now, I've already got a material made up, but there's also this material which just got created as well. So when you create your cam texture material, it is important that you do change the shader from standard. So click on your cam texture material, and then click on the tab up here to change the shader, go unlit, and then select texture, and then basically what that will do is it'll make your texture a lot more brighter, so then it's not dark when looking at it on the screen. So yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much a lot of the in-scene stuff that there is to show. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be getting into the script and show you guys how the script works. So with the script, I've got it attached to these two buttons here, the next cam button and the previous cam button. So when you do create your script, you want to make sure that you do add it to both of these buttons. And also, as you can see here, I've got like a list called cameras, and this is where you want to drag in your security cameras and fill them into this list here. And then we've got a variable called camera selected, and this actually determines, you know, which camera in our list is selected. So if camera selected equals to 1, then that means that our second camera will be active. You know, and let's say, for example, you know, the camera selected is at 4, that will mean that the fourth camera will be selected, so yeah. And then we've got another variable called other button, and basically you just fill this in with the other button. So if you have your previous cam button, right, you fill in the other button variable with the next cam button, and then with your next cam button you want to fill in the other button variable with the previous cam button. And the reason as to why we're doing that is so then the camera selected information gets carried between the two buttons, so yeah. Now anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the script, so yeah. Oh, and by the way guys, you want to make sure that if you don't know how to create a C# script, you just go right click, create, and then C# script, and then you can name your script what you want. I recommend naming it a security cam system with underscores in between security cam and system. And then just open up your script when you're ready, and yeah. So now here we have the insides of the script, and I'm basically just going to explain how things work. So here we have the variables. Now I already went over these, so we have a list for our cameras, so this is where our security cameras will be stored. Then we have a public int variable. Now ints, for those who don't know, means integer, and an integer is basically just a whole number, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're all integers. And yeah, so basically the camera selected integer variable here basically determines which camera is selected. So then we have the other button variable. Now basically this will just have to do with, you know, your other button. So let's say, for example, you have your next cam button. What you would do is you would fill in the other button variable with the previous cam button, and with the previous cam button you fill in the other button variable with the next cam button. So yeah. So here we have our first function, which is nextCam. Now this is called public void nextCam. So when we press the button, which changes to the next camera, what will happen is camera selected will plus by 1. So if camera selected equaled to 0 before, it will now equal 1. And then we have other code here which does other stuff. So if camera selected is over cameras.count minus 1. Now what this, so cameras.count refers to the amount of cameras we have in our list of cameras here. So cameras.count will basically, let's say for example we have 6 cameras in our list. I'm pretty sure cameras.count would, you know, equal to about 6 or 7, depending. So yeah. And anyways, if camera selected is over cameras.count, so that means if it's gone over the amount of cameras we have, minus 1, then camera selected will equal to 0. So basically, if there's no more cameras in the list, it will basically go back to the start of the list. So let's say, for example, you're, you know, just pressing the next cam button, and it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then it reaches that amount where there's no more cameras, so what will happen is it will then go back to 0. So that's an easy way to explain it there. And then if camera selected is over 0, what will happen is the camera that is equal to camera selected minus 1 will then be set active false. So let's say, for example, we go through our cameras, and then we're on camera 2, right? What will happen is, because camera 2 is selected, camera 1 will be disabled. And then if camera selected equals to 0, what will happen here is, because there's no camera before 0, what will happen instead is the camera that is at the end of the list will disable, because that was the previous camera. And then what will happen is the camera that camera selected is equal to will equal to true. So what will happen here is the camera selected variable on the other button will then equal to what camera selected equals to in this button. So let's say, for example, you're plussing through your cameras, and then camera selected equals to 3. What will happen is the camera selected variable on the other button will equal to 3 as well, or just whatever camera selected equals to on this script. And then we have a debug log, just so that I can keep track of which camera is selected, so that I can spot out any bugs or anything like that. So yeah, that's what this is for. It's just a debugging thing. And then we have the public void previous cam. So this right here was used to cycle through the next cameras, but this function is for cycling through our previous cameras. So if we want to cycle through the cameras backwards instead of forwards. Now, it's all pretty much just like the same stuff, so I don't really need to explain it. You guys will probably understand what's going on here. So when we press the previous cam button, what will happen is camera selected will minus by 1. So if camera selected is less than 0, because there's no cameras before 0, obviously, what will happen is camera selected will then have to equal to cameras.count minus 1, which is basically the last camera in the list. And then vice versa, we have all this. You guys will probably understand what's going on here. And yeah. So that there is the script for the basic camera system. So just to summarize again for you guys, for anyone who needs a bit more of a explanation. So the next cam function is basically used to cycle through the cameras in a plussing order. So as we press the next cam button, it will basically be cycling through the cameras in a list. And it will be plussing them by 1, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many cameras you have. And it'll basically just be cycling through all those cameras, and then when it reaches the end of the list of cameras, it will then restart from 0 again, and yeah. And then we have the previous cam function, so then you're cycling through the cameras backwards, and yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. So when you're done with your script, what you want to do is you want to go back into the Unity engine, and then you want to apply your scripts to your buttons. So again, you want to make sure that you have a button called previous cam button and another one called next cam button, and I will be getting to Y soon. So when you add your scripts to your buttons, make sure that you fill in the camera list with all your security cameras, so you want to place them in the list here. So I've got 6 cameras, for example. And then you want to make sure that camera selected starts at 0. And then you want to fill in the other button variable with, let's say for example, you have your next button selected, fill in the other button variable with your previous cam button, and then with your previous cam button, just fill in the other button variable with the next cam button, and then boom, you're all good to go. And yeah. So one other thing that we need to do is we need to, of course, make sure that we can actually interact with our buttons. So how are we going to do that? Well, I've actually made a script here called interaction. Now, this is a script I made for an older tutorial, but I've basically just repurposed it for this one. And so what this script does is it will be attached to our camera, and a raycast will shoot out, and if the raycast is hitting the previous cam button or the next cam button, if we press E, then we can actually interact with the button and then cause its needed function to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through this script and yeah, tell you guys how this works. And again, guys, also there will be like these scripts will be in the description below in a link to a Google Drive, so then you guys can reference them if you find that easier to reference the scripts, so then you guys know what you're doing that way. This script also already has comments in it as well, which I put in when making an older tutorial. So yeah, you guys can read off of these comments to better understand the script as well. So here we have a public float for the interaction distance, and this basically just determines the distance from which the player can interact with an object. And then we have a public game object for the interaction text. Now basically what this is it's essentially just a crosshair which lets us know if we can interact with an object or not. So if we're looking at the previous cam button or the next cam button, right, the interaction text should enable, since that is something that we can interact with. And then we have a layer mask for the interaction layers, and this will basically just determine what layers the player can interact with. I recommend selecting everything, and yeah. So then we have the update void, and in the update void we have a raycast hit variable. Now, what the hit variable is used for is it's used to collect information from the objects the raycast hits. And then we have our line, which has to do with the raycast. So if physics.raycast, then transform.position, transform.forward. Transform.position refers to the position from which our raycast shoots from, and because this is going to be attached to our player's camera, transform.position refers to our player's camera, and then transform.forward basically means that it's going to be shooting forward from our camera's position. And then we have out hit, and then interaction distance, so this refers to the distance from which the player can interact with an object, and then interaction layers, so then, yeah, the layers we want our player to interact with are then included. So if hit.collider.gameObject.name equals to next cam button, so what this means is if our raycast hits the next cam button, the interaction text will be enabled, and then if the player presses E, what will happen is then script that is attached to the button will be accessed, and then the next cam function will happen. So if we're looking at the next cam button and we press E, the next cam function will occur. And then we have basically the same principle here for the previous cam button. So if the previous cam button is being detected, then the interaction text will be enabled. And then if the player presses E, then the previous cam button, then the previous cam function on the previous cam button will play. And then else, if nothing is being hit at all, then the interaction text will be disabled. And then the same thing here, if nothing is being hit and the raycast isn't hitting anything at all, then it will be disabled, the interaction text. And yeah, that's pretty much that script explained. So what you want to do once you have your interaction script all ready is you just want to click on your player's camera. So here's my player, for example. And then you want to drag in your interaction script over to your player's camera and fill in the variables here. So with the interaction text, as I said, that's just simply a crosshair. So if I go to my game UI, you can see here that I can enable the crosshair. If you guys don't know how to get interaction text or a crosshair, what I recommend you do is you just go Game Object, UI, and then let's say, for example, you just want to get a crosshair, so you just go Image, and then you want to make sure that the image is centered in the middle of your screen, make the image smaller, and then where you have your source image here, just click on this, and then search up knob. And then you should get like a basic looking dot, which you can actually use as a crosshair. So yeah, and then that's how you can make your crosshair. And then just disable it when you're all done. I've already got a crosshair here, so I just got rid of that one before. And yeah. So for my player camera, I've got the interaction distance set to 2. And then I've got the crosshair filled in, and then with my interaction layers, I've got pretty much everything selected except for the player layer. So yes, that's just so then the raycast doesn't affect the player at all and doesn't shoot inside of the player, so yeah. Alrighty, so I'm pretty sure that is all that is needed to actually get all this basic camera system set up. I can't think of anything that I've forgotten now, so once you all do have everything set up in your scene, you've got your little camera system set up and all, what you can do, of course, is you can now test it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to test this out and show you guys how it works. So as you can see, when I look at the next cam button here, the crosshair enables, and when I look away, it disables. Same thing with the previous cam button. When I look at it, it enables. When I look away, it disables. And so now let's cycle through these cameras. So I'm going to start off by pressing the previous cam button. And boom, as you can see, it's now cycling through the cameras. And you can also see in the bottom left-hand corner, the camera selected variable is showing up, basically showing which camera is selected. And yeah, so as you can see on the monitor here, my cameras are changing as I cycle through them. And then let's press the next cam button, and boom, as you can see, we are cycling through the cameras again, just like we were with the previous button. And yeah, so that there, guys, is how you make a basic security camera system in Unity using C#. And yeah, make sure that you've done everything right, and everything should work out for you. If you guys have any issues, then clearly you've most likely done something wrong. So yeah, make sure you watch through this full tutorial so you do know what you are doing. Alright guys, so as it turns out, I actually forgot to do button press animations for these buttons here. So before I do end this tutorial, I'm going to quickly show you guys how to add animations to your buttons, and yeah. So first up, what we're going to do is I'm just going to select one of the buttons here, and I'm going to create 2 empty parent objects for it. So I'm going to right click on my next cam button, for example, then I'm going to go create empty parent, then I'll do the exact same thing again and go create empty parent. And you can rename these parent objects if you want to, but I do have to say that you want to make sure that the second parent object, so the first parent object that we created, has the exact same name as whatever you do for the other button as well. So yeah, so you just want to create 2 empty parent objects for this button, so both buttons, just create 2 empty parent objects. And then what you want to do is with one of your buttons parent objects selected, so with the top parent object selected, what you want to do is you want to go Window, Animation, and then Animation. And now we're going to create a new animation for our button. So when you pull up the animation window, you should see a button say Create here in the middle of it. You just want to press that. And then I'm going to create a new animation called Button Press. And then save, and boom. So when you create a new animation, you should now have this timeline pop up. What you want to do is you just want to press the red button to start recording, and then select the point of the timeline that you want your button to press down at. So at 1/4 of a second is where I'm going to have my button pressed down, for example. And then what you want to do is you want to select the second parent object of your button, and then you want to drag your button down so then it presses. So again, make sure that you have your second parent object here selected when doing this. And what you want to do is, so as you can see, my button now presses down, but I want it to press back up again as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the starting keyframe of this animation, and then at 1/2 a second in, I'm going to paste it. So just Control-C and Control-V, and then boom, as you can see, my button presses up and down. So when you're done recording, just press the red button again. And then what you want to do is you want to select the top parent object of your other button. And then what you want to do is you want to find the animator, what we just created before for our button. And you want to drag this over to the top parent object of the other button. And now this button here should have the button press animation as well, as you can see. And the reason as to why I'm able to do that, why I'm able to have both of these buttons share the exact same animation, is because of the parent objects we just did before. It does help out with that. So now what we're going to do is with one of your button's parent objects selected, you just want to go Window, Animation, Animator, and then this will bring up the Animator tab. So again, you want to make sure that you have the parent object, the top parent object of one of your buttons selected. And in your Animator tab, in the Parameters tab of it, what you want to do is you want to press this plus icon to create a new trigger. And then we're going to call this Press. And then we're going to right click, Create State, Empty. So we're going to create a new empty state. And then right click, and then set this as the default state. And then what you want to do is you want to right click on the new state and then go Make Transition. And we're going to make a transition arrow to the button press animation. And we're going to do the same with the button press animation. We're going to make a transition back to the new state. Now with the transition arrow going back to the new state, you can leave that. But with the arrow going towards the button press animation, you want to select that. And then uncheck has exit time, and then add the press condition. And then boom, that should be it. So once we have our buttons all good and ready to go, what you want to do is you want to go back into your script, and we're going to create a new variable. So this is just going to be a public animator variable, and it is going to be called button anim. Anim standing for animator for short. And now what you want to do is in both your next cam function and your previous cam function, you want to add a line of code which makes the button press down. So what we're going to do is at any point in the function here, in the next cam function, I'm going to write button anim dot play, and then in parentheses and quotations, what you want to do is you want to put the name of your button press animation. So with my button press animation, it's just simply called button press with no capitals at all. So I'm just going to write button press, and then boom. So you just want to copy that line once you write it, and then paste it into the other function as well. So then the button can both press on the previous cam function and the next cam function. And then that should be all the changes to the script done. So yeah. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the editor. So now on both your next cam button and your previous cam button, what you want to do is you want to fill in the animator variable here. So with my next cam button selected, I'm going to select the top parent object of it and just drag that into that animator variable there. And then same thing with the previous cam button, I'll select the top parent object and just drag that into this section here. And then boom, that should be it all done. Now if we try actually press the buttons, the button press animations should play. And there we go. As you can see, when we're controlling the security camera system now, we actually do press the buttons. So the buttons actually get pressed down now. And yeah. So I thought I'd show you guys how to do the button pressing animation since I forgot to do it before. I should have done it earlier on, but you know, at least I did it now. And yeah, so that there is basically how to make a basic security camera system in Unity using C#. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And also, be sure to check out my game URLM Shadow Memories on Steam and consider wishlisting it. It will be coming out when it is ready. It is getting closer to completion, so yeah. Also, maybe check out my game Bodhi and Friends on Steam as well, and consider buying that if you want to. As I'm recording this video, it's actually currently 30% off on Steam. I don't know if by the time this video comes out that will still be the case. But yeah, I'm not really too sure how much longer that sale has. And just before I do leave as well, guys, one thing that I do want to mention is make sure that your previous cam button and next cam button are called next cam button and previous cam button, because otherwise you won't be able to interact with them, since in the interaction script, interacting with the next cam button and previous cam button relies on the names of the previous cam button and next cam button being intact, so yeah. Anyways guys, again, thank you all for watching. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything, any context for you guys. Hopefully this was all pretty easy to understand and you guys did understand this tutorial. And I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.